運が悪かったんだよ、お前らは。
Okay, so we got this earlier when we picked up the card with the sexy lady on it. So it's time to talk to this bread boy. So I don't have as much of a problem with this one as I do the Pocket Racer. It is still a little bit shenanigans, though. The story of Magic the Gathering is you're a planeswalker, and you gotta use magic spells, cast Lightning Bolt at a guy, and do 2 damage to automatically win the fucking game. So for the moment, no comment. Oh, don't worry, those are all commons that you just get in every starter deck. Just fucking trash those. Who gives a shit? His subtitle changed, if you notice. He is now referred to properly as Professor Mesuking. So there's a whole lot of sub-stories based around the card game here. I'm gonna let them actually play it first before I start talking about it. It actually doesn't, and he's just stealing from you. Okay, so, strap in. Strap in for this one. Yeah, I've already beaten this game, so I have the best cards, by the way, so... I'm gonna do the Omni Choke one. I forget if this actually, like, remembers? I don't know if it does. I feel like this is not, like, automatically starting on the ones that I would always use. Yeah, I doubt it. I think it's fine, though. This game's not... Okay, so. Bask. Bask in the game that this is.
キングの名をかけた熱い戦いが始まるよ。勝つのはどっちだ。始め。後悔させてやるわ。しまった。でかいの行くで。行くぞ。えい。ほら。決まった。完璧だ。胡蝶の夢。現実と夢の区別がつかないことの例えだよ。でも
Yeah, so. So, believe it or not, this is yet another example of a minigame that was just from Yakuza 0 that they're just copy and pasting into Yakuza Kiwami. It is the ladies wrestling thing aspect is what was in Yakuza 0. Here's what's different about this compared to the Pocket Racer, which was just straight up the exact same thing, carved out with a bloody knife and shoved into Yakuza Kiwami. However, with this, they're taking a minigame that was in Yakuza 0 and whatever. It's not important. It's not important. And okay, so the minigame that this was in Yakuza 0 was fucking awful. It was like the worst minigame in that game. And so this is actually a dramatically improved version of that exact same minigame. Because it's taking something that was completely raw luck. Like 100% luck-based fuck you gameplay in Yakuza 0, and they've turned it into a rock, paper, scissors game. That's it. Immediately improved. It is a better minigame because now it's just rock, paper, scissors as opposed to nothing. As opposed to fuck you. Roll the dice, motherfucker. And of course, in Yakuza 0, the minigame was Rumble Roses, you know. Scantily clad women be fighting. And so this is the exact same thing. They're taking the minigame, which was Rumble Roses, and reskinning it to have them, like, be dressed up in these bug costumes. But again, it's... Well, how are we gonna justify having the Rumble Roses minigame in Yakuza Kiwami? That's not something the original Yakuza game had. How are we gonna explain having this minigame. We have to reuse it, right? We have to reuse this minigame for some reason. God forbid we don't reuse those assets, you know what I'm saying? Not reusing it couldn't possibly be an option. We have to reuse it. So how are we gonna justify including it? So to their credit, I actually do think this is a good way to justify including the minigame. If you, for some reason, had a gun to your head and had no choice but to reuse the Rumble Roses minigame from Yakuza 0, which apparently someone fucking did, this is not a bad way to justify including it. Because they're taking they're taking those assets and framing it around this idea of a collectible card game. Like, in universe, the idea is you're going around the city and getting these cards, and then you can come back and use them as part of the Metsu King minigame. And that actually does make sense, because remember, Yakuza 1 takes place in 2005, and card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And like Magic the Gathering and stuff like that, and even stuff like Duel Masters, like, this was the age of a bunch of just, of like, shovelware card games being put out onto the market. So it is appropriate, and it would make sense to have something like that in Yakuza at this point. To say during 2005, December 2005 Kamurocho, there would be a card game based on fighting bugs, just like what Pokemon is based off of. And like saying, okay, that's something that all the kids be into. They're all about collecting this bug-based collectible card game, and there's this whole, like, Yu-Gi-Oh-esque community based around it, and there's all this, like, drama. With this like cast of like Yu-Gi-Oh-esque characters who are like, oh, I am the king of Metsu King. I am the king of games. Draw your last pathetic card. There are a lot of these sub-stories though. And they're all gonna be pretty quick and easy because I have like the best cards after already beating this before. So it's so weird that we have like this like trifecta of reused content in this game from Yakuza 0. And usually this series reusing content is one of its best attributes. It's a big strength of the series that it reuses its assets in an intelligent way, so that it feels like every following game is like the next level. It's the next step being built up from the previous game. So, like, if you're playing it in order, if you can really see the evolution of how the games are going from one entry to the next entry, building on top of what came before, and reusing what came before in intelligent ways. And believe it or not, this minigame is actually a really good example of that, of reused assets. Because, yeah, you're seeing, like, the Rumble Roses, oh, the scantily clad girls grappling with each other. But the thing is, what they're actually doing is all of the attacks that they're using are reused animations from combat moves and heat actions that they will develop throughout the series going forward. Like, some of these finishing moves are like actual, like, super heat actions that characters that you will play as have in future games. So this entire minigame is based around reused assets. Of, hey, let's take all of these animations we have and put them in this minigame, and it'll be funny. And it is. Defeated.
作戦勝ちだな。
虫図が走る。嫌で嫌でたま。
It is also, of course, hilarious that it's
Yeah.
the scantily clad women fighting each other. That cannot be denied or ignored. But you have this real, like, trifecta of, like, reused content from Yakuza 0. Where you have the Pocket Racer, which is literally just completely excavated from Yakuza 0 and reused wholesale with no changes and no advancement and no evolution and no context. It's just in there because it was in Yakuza 0, and that's it. Whereas this is taking a minigame from Yakuza 0 and saying, like, well, what's a smart way to reuse this content? What's a way that we can justify having this content in this game in a way that it'll make sense? Because just straight up using it the way it was in Yakuza 0 would not make sense. So let's figure out a creative way to have that content reused. And so they came up with this nifty little idea of, like, oh, well, what if it's a card game? And that makes sense, because A, it adds something of value to the way that content is being used, because now it adds another collectible that you can run around the city trying to collect and utilize, and it'll actively assist you in this minigame. And it's actually taking the same minigame and improving upon it, because the minigame as it worked in Yakuza 0 fucking sucked ass. So taking it and just having it be gamified as a rock, paper, scissors system is way better. And it makes sense contextually as a minigame activity in 2005. So if you had to reuse that content, this is a pretty good way to do it. And then there's Majima Everywhere, which is taking content and reusing it and actually building up upon it. And taking the same thing that was in Yakuza 0 and adding new interactions and adding a new context so that it works in a way that is completely independent, to the point where it's something that is kind of sellable as a new system all by itself, that people wouldn't necessarily relate back to what it's gripping off of. Like, if you hear people talk about Majima Everywhere, they don't talk about it in terms of it being reused for the Mr. Shakedown system, which is what it is. They talk about it as its own unique thing, which it isn't, but the way they included it is such that it manages to be unique enough to be appreciated in and of itself and what it has to offer. I think it's really annoying for various reasons, but it is the best. I mean, like, it's too much of a good thing. It's such a good thing, and they knew it was such a good thing that they went overboard, and there's just way too much of it. Like, they knew that what they had done was a really good idea that really worked, and that people would like, and that they probably liked doing. Man, that makes it easier. It's just the downside of the Majima Everywhere system is it gets so oversaturated. Not even after a first playthrough, just like it's a ridiculous extreme amount. There we go. Of overuse in a way that it starts to actively intrude upon the experience of the original game, which you would think a remake should be trying to preserve. But it's still fine for what it is. It's just, you know, after... Let me open up the pause screen here. Is after 80 hours 80 hours of Yakuza Kiwami, yeah, you start to really fucking hate the Majima Everywhere system. maybe that's a indicative of maybe you shouldn't be playing these games for such an amount that it starts to total up to 80 hours. I don't know. Oh no, I'm getting bullied for my card games.
Yeah.
You can't shame me, child. Do not cite the old magics to me, witch. I was there when they were written. Fuck off, child. And I mean, I guess there is something to say for the base, you know, base pleasure of, you know, what is on the screen right now. I mean, you can't necessarily say that, it's so... okay. It's funny. How can you have anything negative to say about it at the end of the day? By making it a randomized luck-based thing, I guess, like how it was in Yakuza 0, I guess. Also, the attack animations can take a little bit of a long time to fucking play out. There we go.
もっと楽しもうか
Criminy. Fucking wrecked.
うちの勝ちやな
俺の勝ちだ。
牛の角を蜂が刺す
Who is this guy? Perhaps he could be the new king of games. It's all about the heart of the cards, kid. Actually, that's actually a really good lesson for, like, actual card games. And it's a good argument against, like, meta decks. Because it's like, if you're playing against, especially against someone who might be new to the game or still learning it, like, why would you deliberately try to
ねえね
subtract from the community? It's a community-based game. It's a competitive community-based game. Why would you, if you're doing shit that's making people want to stop playing the game, why would you do that? You're not gonna have anyone to play against. You asshole. What kind of a piece of shit plays a burn deck, you know what I'm saying? This fucking guy plays a B deck. There's only 3 more to go. Fuck off, Majima. I'm not even done talking about Majima, and we fought him 50 fucking times so far already. And I still have more to say about him. Wish there was an item or something you could equip to just be like, fuck off, Majima. Just tape a picture of Makoto to the front of my face and run around town with it. And I'll be like, no. Why? You really learned the heart of the cards. Oh no. His dark backstory. So one-sided. Look, man, if you're doing the fucking catapult turtle fucking OTK combo, you're just gonna piss people off. See, Professor, you never want to play an Exodia deck. You're just gonna, it's bullshit. You can't do this.
Oh.
Dun dun. Hey man, I put my quarter up on the machine. You know, everyone's got to take turns. That's funny, because that actually plays into the wider themes of the games in general. See, Kiryu don't play by that lifestyle. Oh, if you're the strongest, that makes you correct? Kind of. But it's actually a little bit more nuanced than that. You fool. I forget what the compatibility even fucking means. Hold on. Why am I... Whatever. I'm like overthinking this. I just gotta get through these sub-stories, my dude.
行け。お前が女王だ。
Fuck off, my dude. Not to say that playing rock, paper, scissors against a fucking computer isn't also incredibly luck dependent. Now I can use fucking rock once? Jesus. Oh shit! The magic pixel! The magic pixel! This is the power of the heart of the cards! Friendship is the key! The queen bee, motherfucker! Dun dun dun! The queen of games! Uh-huh. Shouldn't I be... Kiryu just suddenly realizing, oh shit, I need to uncover the mystery of what the fuck is going on with, the 10 billion yen and, whatever else is happening in this story. It's been fucking 8 hours, I don't remember. How rude. It really is, like, kind of interesting how what's normally such an asset for the series, which is the asset reuse, and what's normally such a positive and beneficial thing for the series, which is the asset reuse, I would say normally that is a positive thing about the series. It directly, benefitly, and positively makes the series better. The fact that they reuse so much content in between games, and in succeeding, in proceeding games. So it really is kind of strange and disappointing that pretty much the biggest detraction and pretty much the biggest downside, the biggest argument against Yakuza Kiwami is that it reuses content in a way that, like, isn't good. Like, all of it's I don't know. It's like too much weight finally, like, catching up with it, I guess. I don't know, it's almost like weird to even, like, break it down. That, like, why would reusing assets in Kiwami be a bad thing when the game reuses assets all over the place for the entire series, and that's normally such a good thing about it. But it's like, it's the way it's done. It's hard to put it into a... It's sort of like, I don't know, what's that expression, like... I can't give you the definition, but I know it when I see it. The fact that I think I like actually did sum it up though, where it's like, but why did you have to reuse this content? You didn't need to do that. You could have just not. You could have just not had it. And if you didn't put it in the game, it would have been fine. So why did you feel the need to include it? Whereas with other games that they reuse content and it's a good thing, you get this feeling, this sense that it's an evolving franchise. It's an evolving series that's improving on itself with each successive game. Whereas with this, it doesn't feel like it's improving on what was in Yakuza 0. It's not taking what was in Yakuza 0 and making it better. It's not taking what's in Yakuza 0 and being like, yes, this is the next step. Maybe they felt like they couldn't, though, because this is a remake of Yakuza 1, and so they were shackled to feeling like they wanted to improve on Yakuza 0, but also you had to be authentic in recreating what was in Yakuza 1 on the PlayStation 2. I don't know. It's this weird, like, issue that kind of gets away from you. Where, oh yeah, let's just remake Yakuza 1 using Yakuza 0. That's such a good idea. And then you didn't really think about what that would mean. You didn't think about the consequences of your actions. Your scientists were so busy wondering if they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. And ultimately, I do think Yakuza Kiwami does function as a replacement for Yakuza 1. But there's a big fat asterisk on that. And it's all these things where it's existing in this cognitive dissonance of being a sequel to Yakuza 0 in addition to being a remake of Yakuza 1. And in every way that it's a remake of Yakuza 1, I think it's great. And it works, and you can just disregard the PS2 game and play this instead. But in every way that it's a sequel to Yakuza 0, it's a letdown, and that's another huge reason I think you shouldn't start with Yakuza 0, because you're going to go from Yakuza 0 to this and be like, fuck this game. And not unreasonably so. Whereas if you play this first, it's got these weird downsides and detractions that, like, you might not really understand, but as a replacement for the experience that the PlayStation 2 Yakuza 1 is, then it serves that function as an introduction to the series instead of telling someone, you gotta go find a PS2 and you gotta buy an old copy of a PS2 game, or you gotta learn how to emulate on your PC, or you gotta, like, import a fucking HD remake from Japan. And it's just not worth it, because you can just play this and it's fine. It's not worth the effort of getting a PS2 and getting an old PS2 game, or learning how to emulate, when you could just play this instead. And there's no appreciable difference. In terms of how it allows someone to experience, someone to engage with the experience that the original Yakuza 1 game provided. Because Yakuza 1 on the PS2 is a bad game. So even though Yakuza Kiwami isn't great, it doesn't have to be great to be better than Yakuza 1. It doesn't have to be flawless to be a better thing to play than Yakuza 1. Because Yakuza 1 is a hard fucking game to tell people to go back. First of all, you gotta do all this shit to be able to play it. And then second of all, you play it and you're like, this is what I expended all that fucking effort to play this? Seriously? That wasn't worth it. Just play Yakuza Kiwami instead. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So, like, considering the Pocket Racer and this minigame are the big, like, tumorous additions, the big Kiwami tumors of this game being Yakuza 0 2, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to talk about the fact that this is Yakuza Kiwami. Yakuza Extreme. Ryuga Gotoku Extreme. And the downsides in this game. Fuck. as, you know, a new game that exists. As that is a sequel to Yakuza 0. Because that's what it is. It is a sequel to Yakuza 0. And it was made to be a sequel to Yakuza 0. So you have to confront that if you're gonna sit here, as I am, and saying you can play this game first, do not play Yakuza 0 first. Honestly, no matter what your argument is, I feel like saying play Yakuza 0 first, it's fine, is wrong. Don't do that. You're wrong to tell people to do that. How dare you? How dare you do this terrible thing? It is literally incorrect. Fucker. You fucker! You actual motherfucker! How dare you! Maybe he'll do it twice in a row. And maybe he'll obviously do that instead, because I'm an idiot. And I can't skip this animation, even though I'm just sitting here waiting to die. Whatever, dude. Fucking finally, Jesus. Remember how I said, like, the Rumble Roses fucking minigame in Yakuza 0 was 100% raw fuck you luck and completely just irredeemable roll the dice? So, take the fact that in this game, it's a rock, paper, scissors minigame against a computer which knows what your input is going to be. Think about how this is an improvement and is less luck-based than it was in Yakuza 0. Think about that. Think about that and weep. Okay, last one. We're gonna fight the King of Games here. And this will be the final. We shall become the King of Games. We shall become the King of Games by defeating our mentor, the one who introduced us to it in the first place. And it's a mirror match! Mirror match! Ah. We know each other too well. I can predict all your moves, Yugi. It is so funny seeing moves that were designed for a big, burly, 50-year-old Yakuza gangster, like, machine of death. Being, animations built for that being used by, like, sexy, scantily clad women. Oh my goodness. Who will break first? Oh, who will break first? Oh! This is tense. This is intense. Oh, yeah! My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, but it does contain this. The unstoppable Exodia! I am the king of games! Fucker. I've been using that the whole time, bitch. Yay! Kiryu, you have once again found amusement in an activity that is designed for fucking children. Anyway, so that is all the mini games and all the side activity that you can waste your time doing if you hate playing actual video games. So there's still one last thing that we're gonna have to do before we can continue and actually dedicate ourselves to the main story. And that is the hostess clubs. You might think, why are you doing these all right at the beginning instead of doing the actual story and, like, taking a break from the story and doing the side content as you progress? I say that's stupid because I want to focus on the actual story instead of getting distracted from it constantly. So I'm just going to get all this side activity out of the way so that we can completely and fully dedicate ourselves to appreciating the actual story mode. So we're going to do the hostess clubs, and then we can finally get back to the main story. I hope you're excited.